Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Brian. Today we are revisiting a band that I visited not that long ago. I think this is the shortest gap. Although Gorguts was only like 2 weeks ago, so maybe 3 weeks ago. I don't remember when we did tech death metal. Anyways, so this one we are revisiting the Dream Theater. Alright, gotta get my brain going. Liam over on Patreon suggested Count of Tuscany if I did Dream Theater during the revisit week, and it got selected. That's what we're doing, so let's check out the Count of Tuscany off of the Black Clouds and Silver Linings album. Now right off the bat, man, this is a 20-minute song. Does Dream Theater know how to write anything shorter? This is getting a bit ridiculous. I don't mind my 20-minute epics, but I mean, come on now. Alright, let's go. Nice little ballad of an intro. Very fuzzy, round tone on this guitar. Very cool little classical flourish there. I mean, the time's weird too, but that was just a weird sound that they had. Nice drum fills, very clean. Not really, technically impressive, just, kind of running down the drum set, but it's very precise and clean, and that's skill. Love the use of those strings in the back. That's a playful little riff right there. I really wish I knew more about electronic sounds to kind of talk about that specific sound that they're using, that phase sound, but I love it. A lot of sections right here are focusing on triplets in the main riff. Fill in the space, hold out the notes rather than staccatos, but same riff. Variation on an idea. Alright, why transition? Just go to the new scene. Those little hiccups there. Man. Yeah, so 98989888.
Let's go for a drive. Along the way, I'll be your guide. Just step inside. Maybe you'll recall a kind of curator, a character inspired by my brother's life. Winding through the hills.
Anybody else get an early Metallica vibe to this? I mean, other than the time signature, but just like the guitar tone, the riffs, even a little bit of how the singer like accentuates the yeah. Or maybe Megadeth. It's kind of wild how many different tones they can go through. Like, they can distinctly sound like Dream Theater, and then just on a dime, they can sound like any number of influences from their time. It's just wild that they can just mimic things like that so easily, so effortlessly almost. And then we're very clearly Dream Theater music. Very different approach from Octavarium, which was a lot of different ideas being strung together. This one uses a lot of variation on the same few ideas throughout the track so far. Very different approach to songwriting. Just goes to show their versatility as a group. Alright, back to this. When did this song come out? Because the era that I'm thinking this song is from, I don't think this kind of influence was out around then. Although I suppose they could have created it too. Those drum fills, man. See, and the guitars remain the same, and the rest of the band just picked up a new thing, and it's this idea of slow evolution, where we can go from one idea to another by slowly transitioning each instrument. Or we can just change on a dime. I mean, Dream Theater does both. That is a wild synth sound. Very intergalactic, spacey. The song is very theatrical though, like some sort of soundtrack to a fever dream. Just constantly changing. Great use of chimes as a way to transition between, you know, the intensity of previously and then this almost trance-like section. Chimes have been used as like a transition device, an auditory transition device in a lot of medias, and yeah, the trope has been put to good use here as well. Very interesting, he's repeated that now. There's a very long decay on these notes. Even after he releases the key, they continue to be held out, and he's purposefully putting this space between those three notes at the beginning of every single one of these phrases. I mean, that is a very... it's a very purposeful touch. And it's distinct. It runs counter to the rest of the music that's being played. It's almost out of place. I appreciate that he's probably done it for a purpose, but I would much prefer the whole thing, the whole part to be legato. Pretty basic chord progression right there. Points to the third one resolves to the fourth one, which is, yeah.
Could this be the end?
Simplicity is a good way to come out of that section we were just in, though.
The way I die, sitting here alone, no one by my side. I don't understand. I don't feel that I deserve this. What did I do wrong? I just don't understand. I just don't understand.
That is a cool tone to put there.
Give me one more chance. Let me please explain. It's all been circumstance. I'll tell you once again. You took me for a ride, promising a vast adventure. Next thing that I know, I'm frightened for my life. Now wait a minute, man, that's not how it is. You must be confused.
Same chords, just distorted them.
Please don't be afraid. I would never try to hurt you. This is how we live. Strange although it seems. Please try to forgive the chapel and the saint, the soldiers in the wine, the fables and the tales, all handed down through time. Of course you're free to go and tell the world my story. Tell about my brother, tell them about me, the Count of Tuscany.
When did those strings come in? Drums just tearing it apart. Another triplet feel. Is that the end? Dang, I really wish I knew what the story was, because I would really like to know what Gentle Water and seagulls it sounded like. Nature in general kind of sound like some crickets in the woods. just the idea of nature, how that fits into the ending, completing the story of the Count of Tuscany. Yeah, though, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. Not much different than Octavarium. I mean, there's just so many layers everywhere. There's so many time signature changes. There's so many genre switch ups, tone changes. It's just, this is what Dream Theater does. It's craziness. But it's a very contained, honed insanity. Very cool that they can just continuously push out music on this level in the metal genre. I mean, composers have done this forever. But I don't think they've ever really done it on the kind of frequency that Dream Theater has. I'm also assuming that all their songs are like this, and since they've been out for such a long time, I assume they have a lot of albums too. But, both of those are assumptions. It's quite possible that their epics are withheld to, maybe only a handful per album, and not all their albums are going to be like concept albums like the one that Octavarium came off of, which I understand that all their tracks are kind of, pulled together in a way to create this central idea. But, it's just wild that they can pull all this together like that so frequently. One thing that really stuck out to me was the finale. Judging from what I remember about Panic Attack and what I reacting to Octavarium not that long ago, and now listening to this one, they do a lot of transitions. They don't really stick to a central idea for very long, other than intros. Speaking of intros, I think there was like 4.5 minutes without putting any words in, and I said it with Octavarium, I'm going to say it again. It takes guts to make an intro that is longer than most complete songs coming out today. And today is not only just right now, but also whenever the present time was when this song came out. It really doesn't matter. As far as I can recall, the past, almost the past decade, nope, take that back, century, of pop music has stuck to shorter tracks. And I know I'm kind of pushing that when I say century. It's probably closer to like 3/4 of a century. Because, back in the 20s, jazz was popular, and 3 minutes would be a little short. Short-ish. I mean, even when you talk about swing, which doesn't have, mainstream swing, which really didn't have solos. It was mostly just a 15, 16-piece band and a singer. Even those songs were 4 or 5 minutes long. They weren't that long. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. For the past century, your average mainstream song is typically on average shorter than this entire intro, and they've done this twice. Octavarium was the same way. So it's just, it takes guts to not only do this once, but twice at least. I'm going to assume more, because that's just the idea of Dream Theater that I have, is they're just these wild rule breakers. They do whatever they want. And they got the guts to do everything. But yeah, going back to the end though, they do these things other than the intros, which tend to be more of a build-up. Most of their songs are these wild juxtapositions and ideas of theme and variation, and just changing the song constantly in some way, even little changes. And I think the last 5 minutes of the song, I think the outro is a good 5 minutes, and it's the same idea built up. We start with the acoustic guitar coming in with the chords, and then the singer, and then we get I don't know if the acoustic guitar gets modified into an electric with distortion, or if the distortion is played as a layer on top of that, but they're playing the same chords, so either way the acoustic is not audible anymore. And then you get the strings and the drums and the choir and the singer changes to, I think, harmonized O's. And it's just, it keeps building on the central idea. And I mean, like I said, outside of intros, I have not seen this in Dream Theater. They are a band that has musical ADD and doesn't stick with a single idea or time signature very long. And here, the last 5 minutes, if you played that on the radio, it'd be like, bam, there's a song. That is a song written and performed and played. And like, it's kind of wild that they wrote a mainstream rock song and just, it's not a single song. It is a part of this one. But yeah, like usually they just stick with ideas and they just kind of, they have an idea here, then they transition. And for once, they've just really stuck with this central concept and ran with it. And I understand they had to. I don't really know if there's a way that you can build up and create that epic feeling of conclusion while being scattered, constantly changing things. I think epic requires a build-up, and build-up requires consistency, so that you have, a beginning and an end where you can see a clear linear line between the two and see how we got from one to the other and how they, compare to each other. You need that for a build-up. But it's just interesting to see that after listening to Octavarium and the first 10 or so minutes of this one, and it's just, wild time signature changes, messing with the tones. Oh my god, how many tones do they have in this? I mean, even if you just look at the synth, there had to have been 10 synth tones that he went through. And, okay, so a synthesizer is a box of samples. It doesn't really have its own tone. So you can kind of excuse that. But then you look at the guitars. Oh my god. Dude, they went through so many different... I mean, they had their distinct, like wide, not too overdriven distortion that I really associate with their sound. But, I mean, dude, they had a Megadeth kind of style guitar tone. Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't the tone in that section. There was a section that really reminded me of Megadeth. Like old school Megadeth. Symphony of Destruction Megadeth. And I think most of that was the vocals and the composition. No, I don't think that came from the tone. I don't know, dude. I was talking about this earlier, though. And they have a way of just mimicking other groups. And it's wild. Like that Megadeth section, to me, that's a Megadeth song. I mean, or a Megadeth verse, anyways. I think that was around like the 6 or 7 minute mark, and it's just like, if you had told me that was, played to me that sample and said it was Megadeth, I might be a little skeptical based on the guitar tone, but I mean, other than that, it's kind of spot on. But then, like on a dime, bam, they're back to being Dream Theater. They just bust out their tone, their sound, their compositional style. They have a very specific kind of chord progressions that they like to use. It's very Dream Theater-esque. Which is kind of weird to say a band sounds like themselves, but I mean, when they can just jump around and be whoever they want. These guys are a shapeshifter. Dream Theater is a shapeshifter. They can be anyone they want. They're just so good at mimicking, not even just like, because you can mimic music. That's simple. You just look at a riff and you're like, okay, they like to, play with thirds, or they like to arpeggiate, or they often use, this chord progression, this simple chord progression, like a 1-4-5-1 or something like that. So you can write music similar to that, but to like zero in on their tone even, or even their vocal style, like these guys are just shapeshifters. And now I'm thinking about Octavarium. I got to go back and listen to that and see if I really catch any sort of inspirations or homages to other bands. I read a couple of stuff in the comments that they had a bunch of homages to bands that were inspirations to them, bands that came before them, bands that were, big while they were also, big. And it's just like, how can they just be everyone and themselves? It's like they don't even lose their core identity while they emulate others. So, I mean, it's just, dang. But I did have a negative comment, and that is the middle section, the flying through clouds dream section. That's what I'm gonna call it. That's what it felt like. That's what I saw in my brain. Um, it has this synthesizer, kind of like an 80s, early 90s synthesizer sound. Um, like almost stereotypical to a fault of exactly like when I think of an 80s synth, this is what I think of. Um, with a long decay on it. Like these notes were held out way past the keys being released on the synth. And just like the beginning of every musical phrase was these like short, they're not staccato because of the decay, but you can hear that he's just like tapping it, tapping it, tapping it. You get these three real short notes, and then everything else is legato, and then it's these three short ones again, and it's just like, it was distracting. I didn't think it fit. He was obviously going for some sort of juxtaposition between the two ideas of this legato kind of fall into a trance and then like being broken out of that trance. I'm not sure if it had something to do with the narrative. He obviously did it for a reason. It was very purposeful. You don't accidentally do that. But to me, it was just, it broke all the flow of that section. I don't know, man. It just not what I would have done in that situation. But like I said, I'm sure he did it for a purpose. I appreciate the fact that these guys do everything with purpose. They do it with precision. Like I said, I'm sure he did it for a reason, and maybe I just don't know what that reason is. But first time listen, I don't know, that one just didn't hit me as well as the rest of the song did. But yeah, just Dream Theater, man. And I mentioned early on that there's a lot of emphasis on triplets. There's actually a lot of threes going on. A lot of the song is written in some sort of 6/8 or 9/8. I counted out, I think it was the first verse type thing. I don't know if you can really say this song has a verse. It's just constantly changing. But I believe it was repeated at least once. And it goes 9/8, 9/8, 9/8, 8/8. You could count it as, 18/8, 17/8 if you wanted to break it down into two sets rather than, repeating the 9/8. That just depends on how you want to write the key signature. But yeah, we have that. There's a lot of triplet feels throughout, which kind of lines up with the 9/8. But you kind of, if you were writing that into a 4, then you would use the triplets to kind of get that something similar to the same feel. But I would imagine if I went through here and specifically looked out for ideas of 3 or multiples of 3, either in the lyrics or in number of instruments being played or in time feels, I'm pretty confident we'd see 3 show up a lot. And I don't know if it was intended. I don't know if it falls into the narrative. I don't know if it was a mathematical goal before they wrote the song. We're going to focus in on 3s on this one. It's gonna permeate through and kind of decide how we're going to write our stuff. But yeah, 3 seem to show up a lot. Yeah, so that's Dream Theater. Whatever this song was called. Oh, Count of Tuscany. I almost forgot. I was gonna call it Octavarium, but like, no, brain, that's not it. We can't say that word. That's not the name of the song. Count of Tuscany. You guys can head down in the comments and let me know what you think. Does Dream Theater make anything shorter, man? Jeez, just like, I don't remember. Octavarium was over 20, I think. This one was just under 20. 20 minutes is a long time for a song, even though it never feels like 20 when we're done. All these songs feel short. I don't know. I mean, maybe they're just wizards and they're manipulating time while I listen to this. They put temporal elements into their music to change the way time feels when you listen to them. I'm going to put it past them. These guys are wizards. So yeah, while you're down there in the comments, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell. If you like, you can check out my Twitter or Patreon. Links are in the description. And I will be back next week, returning to the one video a day format since I am no longer behind, finally. And yeah, I hope to have some new stuff on here. I want to put an end screen with a list of Patreons and 2 videos for you to check out, that kind of thing. A lot of people are doing that these days with their YouTube videos. Yeah, just put like a nice end card though. And that'll be my next little addition. I'm starting to really get a hang of this YouTube stuff, and I want to increase the production value. And I think that'll be the next thing I do. And lighting is on its way. I'm waiting for a sale on these lights, but if they don't pop up in the next week or so, I guess I'm just going to pay this full price that is much higher than it's ever been. I don't know how you can have a new maximum price. The price is like increased over time. I don't understand that. You start with the highest price, and over time it decreases in value. It just, oh man. Anyways, yes, lights are coming, which is good because I'm no longer by the window anymore, so I need to get a real key light. These videos are a little grainier now that I'm turning up the gain. I'm rambling now again. You guys stay safe out there. I will be back next week with 1 video a week. I don't remember what the next... Oh, Women of Metal, I believe, is next week's theme. Pretty excited about that. So yeah, you guys stay safe and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.